hi, welcome to Event Ready Podcast, where we talk about our roller coaster ride of being a live event artist.
So, if you're a painter, calligrapher, or illustrator, this podcast is for you.
Because we're about to uncover the secrets, the stories, and the struggles of the industry. This is your host, Michelle.
And I'm Talisa.
And I'm Isabel.
So we took quite a long break from podcasting, from recording, because we actually met up. Yeah, so we actually met up in person in beautiful Vancouver.
Yes, you did.
Which is our midpoint. And we did our branding photo shoot. So we're going to have fun content coming up with new cover page. So Isabel's not floating anymore.
I'm no longer the floating head in the middle. Actually, I was just looking at that today and I thought it was so funny because with the floating head, it almost looked like I was taller. And then in our real photos, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a whole foot shorter. It's like, just kidding. She's actually the small.
You're not photoshopped in. It's an actual photo now.
Yeah. I'm a real person.
Yeah. Oh
But no,
God.
it was so much fun having you guys in my city. It was so great.
It was so much fun. Like we have a new reel that we just posted, and we keep playing it over and over again because we missed it.
I watched it
It
so many times today.
It's such a good memory.
Reminisce. Like it's funny because watching the filming of was like it just like took me right back to the day. Like we literally only had one day together, all three of us. Just not even not even the like the whole morning because we were so like trying to get organized. We really only had half a day together. So
yeah. It was a very packed, busy day doing photo shoot. It was 3 hours, and we got the pictures. And yeah, it's gonna be, so we are ready to have more fun episodes, more tea to spill.
Yes.
And yeah, so and today we are going to talk about something relevant to I think a lot of artists are probably going through it, have been going through it. I went through it, which is slow seasoned. A lot of, I guess it depends on what type of event artist that you are and what kind of client you cater to. But we're gonna talk about our experience and our journey, how we deal with slow seasoned. Yeah.
yeah.
So
For all of us, now that we've been through, at least a few years doing this job, we did find that there's starting to be a pattern where there are times when it's like 50 emails a day, and then there are times it's just like complete dead silence from the world. And you're like, oh my God, is something wrong with me? But really, like, it's good that after being, in the business a few years, you're like, okay, this is normal. This is like year after year, we're kind of seeing the same patterns happening, and we're like, okay, this has happened before. Like just getting into the rhythm and reminding yourself that, like, with retail clients that we serve, it really revolves around the retail holidays, the commercial holidays, the purchasing holidays, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, winter holidays. But yeah, there's just times where it's
just slow.
It's kind of nice. Like it's been predictable after doing it so long.
Yeah.
You can start to see trends, and
exactly.
you make the most of it. You can make the most of it.
Michelle, spill the tea.
Oh, I get the honors. after
Mm,
being gone for
as
so long.
always.
Okay, so the T is, as live event artists, we have to accept the fact that we cannot predict or the demand for our time and skill.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's unpredictable but also predictable.
Sort of.
Yeah. I think like what we said, I've been in the career, what, 5 years now? And COVID was unpredictable for the whole year. So that was kind of like abnormal, obviously, year. So we can't really use judge that as, what the norm business as usual would be. But I personally see month of July to be very slow based on seeing the trend of every year. Every July, it's always like not that many bookings. Um and it's not a bad thing. It's a very normal thing and I actually embrace it. Um yeah, and we get to meet up in July. And
Yeah,
it's a
I know
beautiful
we
day and it's a beautiful month too. It's always like the hottest and
Mhm.
summer.
plus you got kids.
Yeah.
July is a good time to have off, you know,
Mhm.
like to actually travel and get out there. I was thinking about the pandemic year and how like I that was my first year. That was my first year working in live events, which is so weird if you think about it. Uh but yeah, like I remember my actually, no, it was my second year because my first year was in 2019, but it
2019.
was the holiday season. So it was like right on the cusp of 2020. And then when 2020 happened, it's not as if I had something to compare to, right? And so
Mhm.
anything that happened in 2020 was like still an increase from last year because I didn't work the last year. So I didn't really even know what to expect. But the fact that there were events to participate in was very hopeful. Um, because I was like, oh, this is happening in like isolation year. Like next year has to be better. Next year has got to be more, right?
Mhm.
Um, but when you said, it's predictable, it's unpredictable, but predictable at the same time, like COVID taught us that it's with our like year after year patterns, something can still come along to like take out your entire pattern and be like, nope, that's not happening this year. Or if like imagine there's like a natural disaster in your area, like stuff like
Mhm.
that could happen um and your seasons are no longer predictable. Like
Mhm.
it's very interesting.
Yeah. I actually started working like the year after COVID. So the first time I got hired was in 2021. And
Oh.
it was like that for me. I think I was building my business during COVID. And then the year after that, I got my first job. And for me, I was like one, two here and there. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy because it's so new. I had nothing to base it on. And I know that we were just getting out of COVID. So I was so happy, like you, Isabel. I was like so happy to get something and like know that everything's starting to open up again. People are starting to come back out and shop at retail again. So it was really nice. But yeah, I understand from like the beginning, like you can never, this is a business and you can never like predict what's going to happen, when you're going to get hired, who's going to hire you. Like it's kind of a surprise, which makes it really fun, actually. I think it's kind of fun. It can be fun, scary, but
I
fun,
actually I like the little surprise
right?
whenever, like it's that unpredictability and then that surprise actually it feels like opening up present and Christmas, like
That's such a good point because I kind of experienced that this year during Lunar New Year time,
Mhm.
where the year before I it kind of was dead for me. So in my mind, I was not expecting anything to happen in January, February time. But January and February 2024 was insane. like
Yeah.
off the charts insane, which I didn't have a reference point for in any of the previous years. So that is the like surprise factor. Like what I thought was going to be like a slow time, became like a crazy like first quarter for me. So yeah, like more and more I'm learning like we just don't know. We just don't know what's going to happen. We can guess, we can make assumptions and see what happens the next year, but like we just don't know.
Okay, so what's I actually find interesting, I was having communication with this PR agency because I wanted to know like, are you booking me or not? Right. So I was like kind of going back and forth. And then and I was like also on vacation, so I'm like, I kind of really need to know, because I don't have to like deal with it while I'm away. And they were saying, I am so sorry for the delayed response. As you know, August is a very busy month for events. And I was like, well, that's very new to me. But also, because like that's not what happened last year. What do you mean? Like, is that
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year or is it just this year? But I do agree with her for this year at least. I was very surprised that my August is as busy as December. Did not expect that at all. Um, so yeah, that was like a nice little surprise. But she did say that there's a lot of events, and I did see like their page. Like there's events everywhere in Toronto. Like it's insane. Like there's always a pop out or like a pop up or like something, and everyone's doing it around the same time. And I was a little confused because that usually never happened until like, September, October. So I don't know. It's like it's very unpredictable. But I, yeah, I guess it's quite surprising. So slow season may not always be the same every year. It could change depending on trends, depending on your city, depending on, the kind of
Yeah,
clients that you want to
I,
cater
I
to.
feel I feel like sometimes in the community, because we share so many similar experiences, and maybe we work for very similar or sometimes the same clients.
Yeah.
um we tend to make like conclusions, and like we draw up like our thoughts about like what could be happening or what couldn't be happening um in the retail industry, but we really aren't, like we're not in that world, and we're not making those decisions. Like there are a lot of things that we can guess, like, oh, it could be that they're sorting out their budget, or it could be that they're doing this or doing that. But really, we don't know. And if in a particular year something's happening where they're ramping up events, because maybe one company that owns 50 companies is just, that's their goal this year, is like, we're gonna do twice as many events as we did last year. We just don't know these
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
right? Something greater could be happening in their world that we're just not aware of. And we can, like I said, we can make guesses and assumptions about it all day long, but it's not our company. It's not our job.
Yeah.
So like really, we're just on the receiving end of that, like
Yeah.
that
Demand.
demand, like whether or not they're out there looking for us. We really don't get a say. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
We're
don't
just
quite have the
here.
control. Yeah.
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 That happened to Lisa, like your story, that kind of happened to me this year. So I was planning a vacation for June. Last June, I was completely open, like no bookings at all. So this year I thought I would be safe to book like 3 weeks in Europe because my husband just came back from training. So we were going to go on like a long vacation. And then as I'm booking everything, which was like the month before, then I get an inquiry for like how many days they're having like an event in June, which is like through multiple weeks all the way up into July. And I was crying because I wanted
Oh
to be
no.
there. This is the event that I did not want to miss, but this year they actually pushed it up 2 months. And so that was something that I could not predict at all. I don't know why they moved it. Like usually it's the same
Mhm.
time every single year. So like you were saying, Isabel, you don't know the changes that are going on. We can guess, we can do all these things, but it's really up to the marketers, it's up to the company. Like you can't predict anything. Um, but that was really sad. But at the same time, I had fun in Europe, so it
Yeah.
was still
That's
good.
like
Like you miss a
that's just
little
a
bit.
memory that you can't get
Right.
back,
And
right?
like that made me think about something. And I'll share more about like my thoughts on this later. But
Mhm.
when we do these jobs, it's like really fun. It's great. Like we love doing it. But at the same
Mhm.
time, like there's other things like we still have to think about our families and
Mhm.
how we spend it with them. So I realized later, like, yeah, I'm gonna remember work, but I think I would remember a trip to Europe even
Yeah.
more. Like that's going to
Yeah,
be
of
more
course.
memorable. It's not something that you do every single day.
Yeah.
It's something totally different.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what was going through my mind. I was like, I love this
Yeah.
brand, but life, you got to do
Mhm.
life.
Yeah, I think, I mean, like this job is still a job at the end of the day, and it's you can always get it back, but then those memories, the trip with your families, with your partners, that's you can't get it back. So, yeah, I think it's important to prioritize that over your work.
For sure. Yeah, that was like it's sad. But at the same time, like
Yeah.
it's still like you can't because you can't predict anything. And it's
Yeah.
not like we're asking someone to take a vacation. Like we don't have a boss. It's not like we have
Yeah.
everything planned out. Um,
Yeah. It just
yeah.
not in the
Oh,
fate.
no.
Yeah.
But it all worked out.
But it all work out. I'm pretty sure they still want you have you back, in the future. Then maybe they'll like, communicate with you better. Like, okay, when are you expecting to like travel? And they make the decision based on business, based on the data, maybe based on because you're in Hawaii, based on how many people are like traveling in that area. And then they look at the data, like maybe June happens to be the time where you get most of the travelers, and it makes more sense to do that. So we just never know. We're just not in that equation when they make decision. We're kind of like the last, but then it is what it is. But opportunities will always come if you work on it or something. Or like,
Right.
there's always other clients.
It really coincidentally worked out for me that I had the entire July off. Like, no, I mean, there were oddly enough, like some inquiries, but nothing ever went through, nothing ever booked. And
Mhm.
so I was just happy to have all of July off and then have Talisa come and we had a little mini trip together. And then Michelle came and then she stayed in my house and we also got a mini vacation together. And then I didn't have to worry about like, oh, working for a day in between or something like that. So
Mhm.
it was really nice that nothing worked out, you know? Nothing worked
Yeah.
out in terms of like bookings, I mean.
Yeah. And now because like now because of that, I just know that like I need to book July off, like maybe at least just 2 weeks. Like for me, it's July for 2 weeks and January for 2 weeks, regardless if there's gonna be unpredictable inquiries. I'm having those time off because I need it. Um, I have not taken Saturday off at all since like January because the same thing, the whole Lunar New Year and
Mhm.
whatnot. So like having that Saturday off in Vancouver Island was very nice for the first time.
It was so nice. Yeah.
The beach and everything. So, and yeah,
Like
so
it
now
really
that's
felt like a pause in life,
yeah,
like all fronts.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
quiet. Um, it was really nice to take that break.
hmm It's like you're also maintaining your boundary, right? Like I need that balance. Like, you've been working, working, working. I'm like, I really want to have some time off with my family and
Mhm.
somewhere that we like. So yeah.
That looks so amazing for you guys. Like you guys got on a boat, went to a different place, were in nature. and got to spend the weekend with like both of your families.
Yeah, it
That's
was.
so valuable.
Yeah, I think it was.
Got on a boat. So, I'm just laughing at picturing us like rowing.
The ferry.
We just, we just got on it. We just got on a boat and then just
row, row, row your boat.
That would make it more memorable, actually.
that would be so memorable, and I would never ever host you again.
So how do you guys usually deal with low season? What's your personal experience?
Okay, so I have like a little bit of a story to share about that because last year, like you guys, I looked at where there were holes in the year where nothing was going on. Um, and I did kind of have like a conscious goal in mind to look at booking more wedding
Mhm.
on-site jobs this year. So last year I had kind of had that set out in mind, like what am I going to do for it? Am I going to reach out to people, or am I going to just do a couple of jobs and then like capitalize on that, or what am I going to do for it so that I can potentially fill out the year this year where there are like holes in the retail holiday schedule
Mhm, yeah,
with non-retail jobs. And so that was something that I consciously sort of sought out to do because I figured like we can't choose those, but weddings are quite like concentrated in the summer months.
yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, if I can book weddings, then that will fill out my year really well, or at least this like very big hole in the middle of the year where it's like after Mother's Day and then before any like winter fall holidays come up, there's just like this massive like quarter of emptiness in my schedule. Um,
Yeah.
and so it did work out for me. A bunch of weddings got booked this year. And it like filled up my August and September. So I'm super happy that it worked out this way. Um, and again, there's things happening in the background that I'm not aware of, like, illustrations at weddings have become a little bit more notable, a little bit
Yeah.
more awareness in that area. So it's not as if like, oh, it's me. I did all this brilliant marketing and this is why I'm getting booked. And like again, it's just like there's some environmental factors with the industry that I'm not like in control of. But
Mhm.
while it did happen like that, I was able to like kind of ride on that on that wave. And then I got a whole bunch of weddings booked this summer. So wish me luck. And I've started on a couple of them already, and I'm just looking at my like upcoming 2 months, and I have fear in my heart for my
Why?
for my arm for my arm and wrist.
Okay.
And then at the same time, like Talisa, you were saying, you know, like how did August suddenly become like such a crazy month, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't expect that either. But aside from weddings, there's also been a lot of activity on the retail
Mhm.
side and also like private events, like private functions. So yeah, just like way more activity than I expected. And so now again, my August and September looked like crazy. Um, and on both sides, which is like a pleasant surprise, because I did have July off. But here we are. That was kind of my goal last year, to fill out the month, and I did, and it was lucky. It was good that I was able to fill that out.
I would like to have an episode specifically just for like wedding guest illustration.
Yes,
Mhm.
you may.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be really good topic. Just focus on that, not about
Yeah,
retail, like just because it's a very different flow, very different experience.
it
Um,
is. It's like pros and
it's
cons.
yeah,
but I'm really enjoying it. I want to find out, like, especially after this wedding season is over,
Mhm, mhm.
you can ask me this question and we'll do the podcast and I'll probably be like, what was August 20th Isabel thinking? Like, let me tell her.
I really
Uh,
like that you saw a open spot in your schedule and you're like, how am I gonna fill that up with something? Because you didn't start off as a wedding illustrator. Like you started off with retail, right?
Mhm.
And then
yeah,
you
we all did.
slowly, yeah, you slowly made that change. I know you're still doing both, but like the fact that you kind of thought, oh, well, weddings usually happen in the summertime, so why not go for that? So it's so cool that you built that for yourself. And like from last year to this year, you have like totally a lot more bookings.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was crazy. In my mind, I remember and my husband's gonna remember that I said this because I remember in the beginning of the year I said something like, "Oh, if I could just book like a wedding every 2 weeks, like my whole year would be made or something like that, right?"
yeah.
And he's like, "Well, like what's the maximum number of weddings that you would book?" And I was like, "I don't know. Is there maximum?" And then just like it's just like a ponderment, but I remember kind of like mentally doing the math, like, well, if I could book weddings at this price and over this period, like, oh, that would be amazing. And then like how do
Yeah,
I kind of work towards that? Which obviously it doesn't work like that. Weddings don't happen throughout the whole year at the same rate. It all clumped in these 2 months. So
yeah.
Well, not unless you live in Hawaii.
But
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's so funny, Michelle, you said that about
Okay.
Hawaii because just like this week, um, Gemma, my daughter, asked me, she's like, well, like, is there also winter time in Hawaii? And my husband literally answered, no, there's no winter. And I was like, no, 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 there's winter. It just feels like summer.
Yes.
We had that whole conversation where it was just like, no, it's still winter. We still call it winter, but it just
Yeah.
feels like summer all
It'll
year
it'll
long.
it'll drop like 5 degrees at the most, and that's it.
Yeah,
I just wear this all year. Like I only have one wardrobe. It's the same thing. But you know, if you
But
did
yeah.
weddings here, you'd be busy every single Saturday and Sunday throughout the whole entire year.
And see, like, I don't know if I want that either. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah. So that's why I think it's funny that I said that. I was like, oh, if I can book a wedding every 2 weeks, like, man, like, I think that would probably drive me nuts. Like, to do the same thing in
over and
a,
over
like,
again.
over and over for the whole year. I, I don't, not necessarily that I would be bored, but just the like, oh, like, what am I trying to accomplish with this? Like, could I do this for 10 more years? I don't know. This seems stagnant or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I
it's
see
not for
what you mean
me.
by that. I see what you mean by that. And like it's not just weddings too. Like there's also like baby shower, bridal shower. Like, right? Or these event planners have like they don't just do weddings.
Mhm.
Um, so even though the wedding months is just probably more clumped in July and August, those other things are happening outside of the summer times. So but yeah, it's you have the upper hand to choose if you want to do that throughout the year or not. I've seen some artists does that throughout the year and they don't get bored, they love it. It's very lucrative income. um
Yeah.
Very high stress as well, but I think if you love it you could, but it's completely up to you. I personally not comfortable doing it yet. um
Yet.
Maybe one
Yet.
day, I don't know, but sometimes I'm just like I'm just gonna do five per year. Let's see if I like it. um but because it is very high stress to me at least. It's like a nonstop, and this is why we need like assistant and everything, but we're gonna have a whole episode on that. um but like
Oops.
I think I totally go with you, man. Like if you're only gonna be doing that, it's probably gonna be like stagnant. Like the fun may not be there anymore. Because I like to, you probably like to, I mean, I personally like to have different maybe this is
Ye-
from my ADHD talking. Like I need to have different
But
vibe and
it
different
is, yeah,
vibes.
it
Yeah.
is personal circumstances. Like
Yeah.
that's just what it is. Some of us are okay with that and some of us are not.
Yeah. It's personal choice. And it may not always be because of the money. It's just personal choice and capacity and whatnot.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember even like last year during the holiday season, I was doing so many illustration events, and then I had like one or two calligraphy events, and I
Mhm.
was looking forward to them.
Yeah.
Which,
Doing something different.
yeah, it's just kind of interesting, like just to like change things up. That like little interruption in your schedule is like, I'm
Mhm.
kind of excited to just like sit down and write letters. Like that's kind of nice,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, just that. I think that little like switch in gear helps me like just like
Keep going.
break it up, and
Mhm.
then and then you can keep going. Otherwise, it's just like a
Yeah.
endless tunnel. Like, oh, when am I gonna get to the other side?
Yeah. You're
Like,
gonna
because
start to
we
feel like a
started
robot.
this like doing something that we love. Like, we don't want it to
Yeah.
feel like a job ever. And
Yeah.
so with the job, it's so monotonous. You just do the same thing over and over again. But then with art, like you can be creative. Like there's
Yeah.
different events. Like you do illustration, you do calligraphy, you switch it up. But I get what you're saying, Isabel. Like if it's just weddings like every single day, like that could feel a little bit like a regular job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be a
Yeah,
little mundane.
a little. It's fun, but
You don't want to lose the fun.
yeah.
You don't want it to lose the spark. So you need some changes sometimes. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, talking about changes for the summertime, because it's like a little bit slower. Um, I do work with different brands and they some of them want to get creative and they think about different ideas of ways to, bring people into their space. So one of the liquor brands wanted to bring more people into their distillery. So one of the things that we decided to do for the summer, because it's a little slower, was to start teaching classes there, like in-person classes. So
Mhm.
she scheduled them for the summer because she knows that's when I like when I'm not busy. Well, I kind of told her that's like my slower season. So we just did a class where I had a few students come in. People can sign up online. And then when they come in, we have the table set up and we paint directly on their rum bottles. So they have a choice between two different ones. And I will tell them, like, okay, this is like, you just give them instructions, like how I teach
Mhm.
online, but I'm teaching in
In
person
person.
now. And I
Yeah.
think people like that a lot more. And I enjoy
Yeah.
that because like you have an interaction and like you can correct things
Yeah.
right away. You can see their
Mhm.
work immediately. So I like teaching in person. It's so different from like teaching online and it's
Course,
something
yeah.
different for me. It's not something I do all the time because it definitely takes a lot more logistics to
Hmm.
set up when you're doing it in person. And then like I'm an introvert, so I have to be
Wait, you are? I thought you
I
were an extrovert.
am. No, no, I think I'm both. I can be both. But when I'm there, like I think my I only have a certain amount of like energies that I
Right.
have, and then after that I start going downhill. So
Right.
I can attest to this.
yeah, it lasts for a while, and then I'm like, okay, guys, nap
And you
time.
crash.
Like literally though, when Michelle was
Yeah.
was with me, we'd be like out doing stuff,
Yeah.
and then I kept checking in with her. I'm like, "Are you doing okay? Like energy wise? Like we're gonna do this after, and then we're probably gonna like grab dinner and whatnot, and like we should probably like go home for a break, yeah." And she's like, "Yeah, I want to take a nap." It's like, oh,
Okay.
okay, no, that's good. That's good because I mentally planned for that already. So we're gonna
Yes.
go home and then you're gonna go for a nap and then we're gonna go for dinner at this time. Like set an alarm.
Thank you for scheduling my nap time in your mind.
I did. I pre-scheduled a nap for you.
And even okay, even during our photo shoot. We had a super hectic morning of the photo shoot, and like we were just going, like preparing everything, making sure we had everything. I ate really fast, and then we had a great photo shoot time. It was like 1 or 2 hours. And then like Isabel, you did yours right after, and I actually went to sleep like on the floor in the studio.
I
We
remember.
had so many contingency
I
plans
know.
for your nap, actually.
I
Yeah.
know.
We
We
were
were
very
I
accommodating.
need nap
So
time.
I brought like I was prepared with an extra car key. I'm like, she's
Yeah.
gonna take this in her wallet right now, and then later she's gonna walk to the car and she's gonna nap there, and then I'm gonna finish up, and this is what we're gonna do. Like we had planned this whole thing.
Yeah. I almost went back to Hawaii with your car key.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I didn't even make it to
So
the car.
close.
I was like, guys, I'm so tired. I'm just gonna sleep on the ground
I mean, it probably
at work.
wouldn't have been like a huge issue, but you know, it was very nice that you remembered. Thank you for that.
You're
Because I
welcome.
forgot for sure.
I'm like, I
He's like, here's
can.
your car key back. I'm like, oh my God.
can you imagine?
Right? Well, you're coming here anyways, so it's okay.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. You could have just returned
Isabel,
it
you
to me.
gotta come to Hawaii to get your car key.
For context, my car key is a card, so it's like it just goes in the wallet, and like it's not even a thing in my mind that like it's like returning somebody's like driver's license that you were helping them carry for the night or something like that. It just like it feels so natural to be part of your wallet, like you just never give it back. So I'm actually very impressed that you remember to give it back to me. So
Right. Well, yeah.
amazing.
I don't even know how I remembered, but anyways, that got off topic. So
We're off topic.
sorry.
So Michelle,
I
yeah.
know. Anyways, so yeah.
I had a question for you about this brand because I wanted to know if it was like a conscious planning that you guys did collaboratively where you're like, okay, well, my summer is slow, so like let's find a way to like make something happen. And then did they ask that at the same time? Like how did that go down?
Oh, well, I didn't specifically tell them like this is the slow time, but she would always be texting me like, "Hey, when's the free time for you? Like, we want to schedule this class." So in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, the summertime is slow for me." So I gave her like a month, a few months.
Like
I
a
was like, "Okay,
range.
well, yeah, range." I was like, "So June, July, August-ish is kind of open for me." And she was like, "Great." And then I let her work with that because she's the one who does all the marketing. She does all the preparation for this event. Like
All
I
the heavy
feel so
work, yeah.
bougie. Like I can just show up and I'm like, "Okay, I'm here to teach."
Oh,
Like
so
she does
good.
everything.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
so amazing at what she does. Like I know that's a lot of work, so she definitely takes that off my plate.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. See, I think that's so cool. Because that's how I would define like a real collaboration between an artist and a brand where there is like an actual conversation that happens between the two where it's not like, oh, I'm ready to hire somebody, are you available, and then you say yes or no and then it happens or it doesn't happen. Whereas in your
Mhm.
case it was really like, oh, this is really what I want to make happen, what does your schedule look like, and then you say, this is what my schedule looks like, let's find a time that works together, and like tell us how you want to structure this workshop or something like that feels like a real collaboration, which is like kind of the holy grail of, I feel, like retail events where like your expertise is being brought in kind of at a planning stage and like something is born out of that. So I think that's so great.
Yeah, I'm so lucky to be working
Yeah.
with them. And they're a local company too. Like they they have their distillery here and then they produce like so much straight from that location. So I get to work directly with the marketing manager and she's
Yeah.
so sweet. Like she always wants to come up with different ideas. So yeah, there'll be more classes soon. But we'll see what happens. It's going into the busier months now. So that's where we're headed.
Um, yeah, that definitely can only happen when you have a great relationship because you have proof yourself working with them and they love working with you. And then
Aw.
it'd be hard having to like, find a replacement. So I think that really definitely has a good factor to have a really strong relationship with your client, and that's how we make up our slow time, our slow season, um by having them working around your schedule. And I
Mhm.
think it's fun when you get to do that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Mm.
I also, along with relationships and stuff, I just want to add, I also did some admin stuff and I changed my business name. So I'm
Oh, you
no
did?
longer,
Yes. You are now
I
Michelle
am,
Clement.
yes, no long, bye bye Juniper Calligraphy. Hello, Michelle Clement.
Oh, we should
Yeah.
do a toast. Okay,
A
toast to
toast.
Juniper Calligraphy. You were so amazing for the time that you served Michelle, and we will always remember you.
Thank you, Juniper.
Bling. Ah,
Oh, okay.
wow.
So, sorry. Okay. What about you, Talisa? What is your experience?
Well, I don't really have anything other than just booking time off every July, 2 weeks of July. Because even though a lot of times when even though I'm already booked and it is like last minute client, hey, are you available for this and this and that date? I'm just like, no, I'm on vacation. And then I just refer those jobs to other artists in my local area. So my family and I usually do cottage every year. So it's either in July or August. So that's when I'm just like completely saying no to jobs. Whether they're predictable or unpredictable, I need to get away. I think it's really healthy to have that balance, and we all need that a bit of vacation. And yeah, so I have a very fixed amount, like fixed month of the year where I need to take some time off.
When
And
you
it
say
just works out.
when you do cottage, what does that mean?
So our family usually like just booked Airbnb of for like four families together. Um like usually really big space because there's a lot of us. And then we usually book by the water, and we would do fishing and maybe some uh swimming and just chill and like barbecue and all that stuff. And then like play board games and stuff. Just completely off the grid and just enjoying the nature.
I love that you like totally
Yeah.
detach from your
Yeah.
computer, social
Yeah.
media, everything.
Completely detached. Yeah. And like technically the what we had in July in Vancouver Island is also cottage, I would say. So like
We
similar,
don't
just
call
like
it that on the West Coast, but okay.
what do you guys call it in the West Coast?
It's the same. It's the same. What's the word I'm looking for? It's the same spirit as cottage, but because usually it's water related, they call them cabins here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's the same thing. I was just making fun.
Oh,
But
what
like
a,
the people do call them cabins. Like, oh, we go up to the cabin. We go
Oh.
up to the cabin by the lake, or like, oh, we go to the
Oh.
coast. We go to the cabin by the coast, whatever.
That makes sense now. Whenever
But
you
that
say
is
like we gotta go to cabin, like, oh, it's like just like what we're doing in here,
it
cottages.
is it is a like a terminology thing that's like very West Coast versus East Coast. Like
Yeah.
it's cabin versus cottage. People are just used to saying that. Like
Yeah.
we have a friend here who's from Ontario, and she says that, right? And she's like
Yeah.
cottage, cottage, cottage. And we're like, "It's cottage." Like again, just a joke. We obviously know what a cottage is. But we're like, what do you mean cottage though?
this must be a Canadian thing. Like we
This
don't
is a
Well,
very Canadian
we're
thing, yeah,
both
for
Canadian,
sure.
we just use the
Right,
West Coast
right.
thing.
on the other side. So we call it camping, but my term for like going into the wilderness and doing fishing and all that stuff, and you're in like a very nice like a
Camping.
cottage, like a cabin, we would call that glamping. Like
Oh
glamour
yeah,
camping
Yeah.
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 if you're
I
not
mean
Basically.
that we use that too because people definitely camp here. But cabin is definitely reserved for the times when you're at like a house.
Mhm.
That's when you would say cabin. But like a ton of people camp here, and I am not one of them.
I'm
There's
neither.
camping, and then there's also glamping, and I participate in none of them.
I don't do
No.
any of them. No.
Oh yeah. I need my Wi-Fi. I need my
Yeah, just because
washroom.
I want to be off the grid doesn't mean
Yeah.
I don't want it around if
Yeah.
I need
And I
it.
still need
Like
AC.
AC, running water, which coincidentally we did not have AC at our cabin
Or cottage.
or cottage.
Don't do this in Hawaii. Like it's like kind of scary actually. Like there's centipedes that will go into your bed and in your
Oh my
tent. Like
God.
it'll crawl into your sleeping bag at night. There's too many
No,
bugs.
thank you.
I don't
No,
do
thank
any of that.
you.
I'll stay indoors. But yours sounds really nice. I want to do cottage over there.
Yeah.
Listen, side story, like the whole thing about no AC. We literally had a malfunctioning AC that when we turned it on, heat came out. Heat.
Mm.
That sounds so Canadian.
It's so hot. And then you're like, oh, let me turn on the AC. And literally, hot air was coming out of the vent. And we're like sweating. We're like, why is it getting hotter in here? Oh, it was very sad.
Yeah.
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 But yeah. So cottage and cabin.
Yeah.
I learned
Cottaging,
something.
cabining.
You know, just slow season things.
Yeah, it's slow season things. Oh, and then because we're obviously artists, we bring our art supplies.
Yes, we
And
did.
yeah.
Yes. I
So
I think it's like okay, so I started doing that bringing art supplies. I mean, I always had art supplies with me on trips, but I
mhm.
finally decided okay, I'm going to like pack it into like a small thing where it's not just with me in the suitcase, it's now with me in the bag that's on me, like
Mhm.
everywhere I go. So now like earlier in the year I went back to Taiwan and we went to Tokyo. And while I didn't do very much art there, I had it with me. Like I always had the option of doing something if I wanted to. But it's just like in a little baggie with like a little pocket palette and one water brush and a pencil, maybe. And that's it. I
Yeah.
bring nothing else. Well, and obviously in the sketchbook, but so it's just like a small little thing and it's just always in my bag and it's ready to go. So I told Talisa, like, you're doing the same because she had texted me before she came and said, like, should I bring? And I was like, yes, you should bring.
And we did art.
And we did art.
I love it. When artists meet up, you got to do art.
Yes. Yeah, it became like a really nice habit of like just drawing whatever you see that you find, you know, eye-catching.
Yeah.
That will remind you of the place and the time. I think it's now I just use that same sketchbook for my traveling sketchbook now. Which I love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I so believe in sketching on the spot. It's not quite the same. It's still better than nothing if you take a
Mhm.
picture and then draw and paint from the picture. But
Mhm.
if you're doing it on the spot with the thing in front of you, that's what solidifies the memory, like in
Yeah.
that moment. Like you're
Mhm.
doing the thing and you're looking at the thing, and that's what like reminds you of the whole experience. Like now we'll never
Yeah.
forget the art that we did in the sunroom of the
Yeah.
cabin. And that like will be like a forever memory
Yeah.
for us. But if we had like just taken a picture of the like oyster shell that I painted, and then I painted that 3 days later when we were no longer at the cabin,
It's not even
it's
not the
not the
same.
same. It's not the same. Because like the subject itself doesn't really even matter.
Mhm.
Like, did I really like love the oyster shell? No, but like doing it there and doing it with you and with my kid, and like it just like add it to the memory. So
Mhm.
bring your sketchbook if you don't already. Have it on you.
Mhm.
That's one of our actionable advice for slow season things.
Yeah, bring your sketchbook
Doing creative things that like
for
inspire
yourself.
you. Yeah, for
Yeah.
yourself, and just like these are the things that will create memories for you and solidify some things that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So yeah, that was one actionable advice, creating art for yourself. And also you don't want to forget how to art. Another actionable advice we can do during slow season is take a course, learn something new, or even something that you already know, learn from different teacher, see um what new tips that you can learn from them. I still like to do that because there's always something new on how to do art, how to do illustration, how to paint and whatnot. And that's always like the best time to strengthen your skills or add new skills. What else? What's another actionable advice that you can do during your slow time?
Um,
Mm, Well, I mean, we kind of talked about doing admin, right? Like this is,
Mhm,
I think it's a good time too for housekeeping stuff.
mhm,
You know, I was gonna do a little bit nagging and say from like a financial side, if you don't input your expenses until the very last minute in the year, like this is a good time to do it. To leave
I am
the
actually better.
embarrassment.
Before, I used to do it like the following year. That's how bad I was. Now, I do it once a month.
at least you're doing it now.
It was such a bad habit, but now I'm better at that.
I don't want to hear any April 2025 like, "Oh my god, I'm buried under." Nope.
Nope. This time I'll have it ready.
Because of you, Isabel, I have to start doing that. I so hate charts. I hate number tracking stuff. That's not me. I'm like the worst Asian person. I don't do numbers. But like, you just gotta do it. It
Mhm.
hurts.
You just got to do it. I People are all going to judge me when I say this. I actually input expenses on the same day as I
Oh, you're
incur
so good at
them.
that. I
You're
try to
I'm
so
do that
that
good.
sometimes.
I'm that
Yeah,
person. I will like buy something on Amazon and then I go enter it
right
like right
away.
now, $20,
You're so
like it's
good.
in.
Yeah, you're
Um
so good at that.
because I did one time, just 1 year of like not having done that, and I was like, never again. Like I will never let myself do that again. So then the
I did that
following
for two
year,
years in a row.
Okay, this is my trick because I'm super lazy and I found a way to be lazy. I got a business credit card and I charge all the business things to that. And so I can be lazy for the whole year. And by the time the year's done, I panic and I'm like, oh, wait, my business credit card. And I look at all my expenses. I'm like, there it is.
Oh, you
All
yeah,
can
I mean,
categorize it.
at least that's a cleaner way to like procrastinate, you know?
yeah.
So it's better because like nothing will have fallen
Mhm.
through the cracks.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
just a matter of entry. But like if it's like messy throughout the whole year and then you have to like untangle the mess, then
Yeah.
a whole other problem. So
That's the worst.
I
yeah.
purchase sometimes I purchase things from PayPal as well. So it's
Hmm.
like but I like to have everything all in one. So it's
Yeah.
that's another admin like manual thing that I have to do. But yeah, I try to do it now once a month. At least
At
once in
least that's the
December, I'm
lie
like,
that you
I
tell,
didn't do it.
Isabel.
No, yeah, but that's it's a habit that I gotta change.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, doing admin or like update your website, which you actually should be doing throughout the year.
Yeah.
Um, but things that you wanted to do before and you should finish. Change your habit like me. Um, what
No,
else?
but that's a good point though. Like updating the website, maybe updating like your PDFs that you like send on inquiries or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like things that are kind of um annoying when you're having to use it and you're like, oh, I gotta update this thing before I send it out. Like those things, those pain trigger points, like that's a thing that you should write down and say like, do this in July or whatever it is, that you have more time doing. Like just put those things in a pile and then get to it when you have the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
I also had the thought of, speaking of finances, like this is time to do some like business evaluation too. Um, we when we were talking about like slow season, for you personally, like 1 month, or 2 months of the year where you just kind of like crickets. Um, and we kind of wanted to mention like just be careful of, I mean, this might sound like total common sense to most of you, but I thought we would just mention it. When you're comparing like periods in time with your financials, just compare year over year, which means like this month from this year versus this month from last year, or year to date, so everything that's happened so far this year versus the same period of time last year. Like those are the times you can compare your revenues, compare your expenses. Those are the things that can like keep you on track or like see what trends are happening. You can even look at like the number of inquiries that you got, what clients you're getting them from, and just start like categorizing things. Like I personally love data of this kind. I think I could even do more of it for myself, but it's kind of like a back burner thing for me. But I think it's just interesting to like sum things up over different years and see like what patterns you can find. And like we mentioned earlier, in our earlier discussion, like even though we can't, extrapolate that perfectly what happened this year or last year, it might not happen next year. But it's kind of nice to like just have that in the back of your mind, like what could happen next year and what it might look like, set some goals, that
They
kind of
do
thing.
this. Everyone does this. Like even brands, they want to know the numbers for everything because like
Mhm.
they always say what is measured gets managed. So you want
Yeah.
to, even though like maybe your numbers aren't the same, at least you know it in the back of your mind and you can consciously make changes from there. Like this year was not my best, so next year I want to do a little bit better. What can I do about it? And then you have numbers to go by. And so even though I hate looking at numbers, I hate tracking things, I know it's so important to do so because if you're not looking, it just gets lost. Like how do you manage something that you have no baseline of? And of course it changes, but at least you'll always know. And sometimes it may even increase like the motivation, like, okay, I want to do better this year. Like you, Isabel, like my July was busy. What can I do for this following year? Okay, book weddings. Like that's so amazing. Like you found
Yeah.
like you realized like there was a need for it, there was open time, so you filled it. And this year you're like incredibly busy. So
And maybe after the season, I'll be like, okay, well, that was too much and I need to do less. And then that's like
Yeah.
another adjustment that I could make. Um, so yeah, like having the numbers in front of you, will just make yourself more accountable. Also just like a guideline
mhm.
to what you want to accomplish next year. Um, I didn't really start doing that until last year, when I was really like taking it more seriously, over like looking at the data from last year. Um, but yeah, I can't believe that I didn't do it before, and now I'm eyes open for 2025 kind of thing. What am I gonna do next year?
I kept my calendars from because I used to have to write everything on calendar. So I kept from like 2022. I kept it and I wanted to see like the change of how many bookings I get within, comparing from that year to that year for different months. and it's pretty interesting to see like how different it is. Now I'm using all digital because um it makes more sense. Because like why didn't I do that? So yeah, it just and then it'll be like so much easier to compare um to see how much whether I've grown or not. That's it's and then you like what Michelle said, what is measured gets managed. Do I want to work more or do I want to work less? That really depends on my mental health. um and yeah.
I remember you talking about that before to Lisa, and I was just so impressed how organized you were with like your time, and you knew when your events were like predicted to happen. And like
Mhm.
even when we were building the courses, you were like you have like you say you don't like to organize things, but you are like so organized with with like note taking and just having like different charts for everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think you guys are doing such an amazing job at like just predicting. I mean, not predicting, but like
Yeah.
projecting different things in your business.
I'd like to thank my anxiety that made me
Organization, anxiety, what's the difference? Like,
I mean, have you guys watched that movie? Wait, what's it called? Wait, not is it Inside Out? Yes, it is Inside Out, right?
yeah.
The one about
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
feelings,
yeah.
the
Yep.
second one, when the
I
anxiety,
haven't seen the
yeah,
second one.
yeah, the anxiety was introduced. How she does it, being organized, project what's happening, and then be ready for it. That's me.
This is why I love having you guys as friends. Like I am not that, but you guys are. So it's like compliment each other.
You mean you needed us to bring
Yeah.
some anxiety to your life?
Yes.
We're so happy.
She's joy,
Uh,
Michelle's joy.
Look, I'm in
Michelle is
Hawaii.
joy. Oh my god, that's true. She is joy. Oh my god.
Our seasons don't change in Hawaii. What do I got to worry about? Like
Yeah.
nothing.
Michelle would be joy. Oh my god. Who am I? I feel like I'm disgust. Oh, yeah. I feel that.
All right. So I think we can wrap up this episode on how we deal with low season. Hopefully this was really helpful for anyone who feels maybe not sure what to do during low season, and hopefully um this helps. So the next episode that we're going to be talking about sort of relevant to what we're talking about. Us as a freelancer, we know that this is a very unpredictable, high risk job. We don't, whether this could be your sole income, it could be your secondary income. We want to discuss more about it in the next episode about being a full time versus part time artist. So stay tuned for the next episode. And thank you for listening. And thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you for listening to all of our rants and stories and laughs and sidebars. It's always a fun time.
And we'll see you next time.
Guys,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.